Excellent. And good afternoon. We are here with Kate Johnson. And Kate, today you have offered your time to talk to our audience in regard to a subject that is very close to my heart. So, welcome to Remarkable Conversations with me, Maria Semple. And this is a new initiative, an initiative that I commenced over 10 years ago when I wrote my book called Everyday Stories from 10 Remarkable Women. And these were conversations with everyday women from my country of origin, Venezuela, and they told us how they overcame obstacles that they perceived in their environment. They share about their identity. They also told other women what will be the limitations that they can't actually overcome. And based on that, for many, many years, I kept putting it off and off and off until I decided one day, well, the best way to redefine your future is to create it. And this is what I am here. So, Kate, for you, from battling addiction to becoming a beacon to prevent suicide, this has turned your life experience to a mission of service, which is lovely. And I want you to tell us more about it. You wear many hats, and you mentioned in your LinkedIn profile that you are a passionate advocate, you are a podcast host, and you are a dedicated volunteer, which is a beautiful life of service as well. So, in this conversation, I would like for us to explore your journey. It's a
Mhm.
remarkable journey, as I will also feel that many of our audience will identify with. And I want us to, um, tune in into your future self that will thank yourself today of what we are both creating. Because today, many of our audience will watch this conversation, but you and I are also creating a digital legacy for people beyond today and many years to come will watch this conversation in the YouTube channel unless YouTube decides to um, close its doors. So I want you to introduce yourself.
Okay. Yes, hi Maria. Thank you so much for being with me today. My name is Kate Johnson. I am born and bred in Newcastle, New South Wales. I guess I've really changed my life in the last 4 years. I battled for a long time with alcohol addiction and mental illness. I guess it all goes back to my childhood. I lost a family member to suicide when I was 13 years old, and that really shaped my thinking around death and the fact that people could choose that path, and it was really confusing, and I didn't really understand it. And I think it really shook me, and to be that young and try to absorb what was happening around me with like my parents' grief and my family's grief. It was a confusing time. And I think from a young age, I then started to question what life was about and what we're here for. And that led to me sort of having to see a lot of counselors when I was young and being treated for depression. I actually left school early because I was quite unwell. And the drinking started in my teens as well. And that just evolved into by the time I was 18, I was drinking every day. And then I did a lot of traveling in my 20s. And so it was sort of an accepted thing to be drinking in the daytime in Europe and living that kind of lifestyle. I was just the party girl. That was my identity. It was something I wore like a badge of honor, like how much I could actually drink and party and how many days I can go for. I was almost like proud of myself in some way. And it all came crashing down when I was about 27. I was hospitalized off the back of a hypomanic state, um, where I was living quite an elevated state, and I was trying to sustain a lot of things. And I think when you're in that manic state, I started to think, wow, this is amazing. This is how people must live all the time. And I'd just been living on a lower plane. And I thought, wow, I'm feeling really good. I was trying to do 50 things at once, coming up with new ideas. I was studying. And then it all came crashing down one day when I was at work, and I actually had to close the restaurant and leave. And I was sent to hospital where I stayed for about a month, and they diagnosed me with type 2 bipolar. So it was a very difficult time because in being in hospital and being confronted with mental illness and being around other people that are quite mentally ill as well. Um, but to come out with a diagnosis, I guess, in a positive way, my medication could be selected based on my diagnosis, so things could start to pan out. And I was well for a few years, and then I fell pregnant and got quite unwell during pregnancy, and then again after pregnancy. I did stop drinking when I was pregnant, but I started quite soon again after. And during maternity leave, I was drinking in the day again and drinking quite a bit. By the time my son was 10 months old, I was back in hospital. This was the first time that alcohol sort of came up, why I was in hospital. And then for the next 8 years of, I guess, my son's life, I was in and out of hospital, in and out of sobriety, going to AA, not going to AA, and just a constant vicious cycle of hospitalization, get out, be okay for a couple of weeks, start drinking again, go downhill again, hospitalization. And then that all came to a head, and I had decided that I would take my own life. It was a really dark and lonely place to be, even though I had a lot of people around me. When you make the decision, you think you're doing the right thing for everybody else. You think it's going to be better for those people. I thought it would be better for my son. I thought it would be better for my partner if they didn't have to live with me anymore. Um, and then luckily I had a very good GP, and she put me into hospital straight away. And I actually did 10 rounds of electroconvulsive therapy, which is very humane these days. Um, but it really helped, and it really shifted something in me. And then I did still battle with drinking for probably another 8 months after that. And then I went into detox. Then I went into rehab, had one relapse about 4 months out of rehab, and then had relapse for about 3 weeks. And then one morning, just woke up, had a few drinks. Then I ran out of alcohol and I was stressing out, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I looked so terrible, and my teeth were stained red from the red wine I'd been drinking, and I just looked like a nightmare, and I couldn't believe my life had come to this. And I went straight up to hospital, and they kept me for the day, gave me some Valium, and sent me home. And I woke up the next morning and never touched a drink again. And I don't know what it was about that day. I think I was very close to losing my family. I was very close to losing my job. I'd isolated myself from everybody, and I just realized I couldn't do it anymore. And um, it's the first couple of months, I don't really remember much. I think it's just a battle for survival and a battle hour by hour not to pick up a drink. And you have to go through that. You have to just power through that, build resilience. Cravings are coming. You've really got to fight. And sometimes it's not hour by hour, and it's literally minute by minute that you've got to fight and make the decision to stay sober. So it's a choice that I make every single day. when I get up and start my day, and when I put my head on that pillow at night. It's a choice that I make to stay sober. Um, so alcoholism is very lonely, but it's also it's a very selfish. I was very selfish. I put alcohol before everything else in my life, before my family, before my job, before myself. And I realized that the opposite of that is I need to start showing up for other people and being there for other people. And I think that's where people say the opposite of addiction is connection. And you've really got to get out there and find your people. And I did that through volunteering. So I started small. I started at my son's school, and then I slowly started building different pockets in the community of people that I could serve and help. And then my volunteering actually led to a new job offer with the Suicide Prevention Network. So I was a lived experience volunteer for them. I had a really great job. I was in a really good marketing role. But I just couldn't say no to have the opportunity to get paid to do what I'm passionate about. And I'm so fortunate for that. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 9 months is raising awareness, doing community events, projects, just trying to instigate conversation, really. I think that's the most important part of my job. It's not, so I'm out every weekend at markets and events, selling merchandise, doing all that, but it's not about the sales. It's about being there for the community and then being able to walk past me, see the mental health signs, and just come over and have a chat. And that's the best part of my job is just the people I meet and the stories I hear and the fact that if you can just listen to someone, if you can just be that ear for someone, it can make such a difference. They did some research and it takes an 8-minute conversation to help someone. So that's 8 minutes of your day to ring a friend and say, how are you? And an 8-minute conversation can completely change somebody's day around. So
Yeah.
that's what I always keep in mind. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you. It's you have shared so much of pivotal moments and through your life, and I will confess that maybe I had lived in a different world, but I have never really come across someone with uh, your type of experience. Perhaps because there is so many around us in the community that they
Mhm.
keep a facade, they
Mhm.
hide it. But I, wow, I praise
Especially
you.
around alcohol, I think people talk about it so much and say it as a joke, like can't wait to get home and have a glass of wine. I've had a rough day,
Mhm.
or I've had a good day. Let's celebrate. Let's have a glass of wine. I mean, even mum culture, like when I'd have my baby and I was in mum's group, it's like, oh, we can't wait to just have a night off and get on the booze, and like it's just it's a thing people talk about. And I've started new jobs as a sober person, and it's felt really inauthentic because I haven't been able to be myself. And people are like, let's have a drink after work and let's do this. And I have to just grin and bear it and not talk about myself. So it's great that I'm in a job where I got the job because of my past.
Hmm.
Past doesn't hinder the way
No.
I do my job. In fact, it enhances the way I do my job.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes you authentic. And as said, I don't know if I could work in your field because I haven't lived that experience. And I know that I have struggled with my own mental health issues of being sad and grief in the past. And I do confess also I enjoy a drink, but I had never really I could spend a day, a week, a month without a drink and I feel fine. However, culturally, you have raised a very strong topic of our society. Alcohol is part of our daily living and being belonging. being accepted. Even I remember I was in Venezuela many years ago, and then people like just Venezuela was my country of origin, and people love drinking beer and whiskey. And somebody was offering me a whiskey. I said, I don't drink whiskey. Well, to that person, I was like an alien. And
Mm,
so, you have raised so many topics here about childhood and the confusion. And I could understand at 13, we are still in that development stage of our early development, not only from imprint, but also modeling, which is from 7 to 14 in terms of our values. So you came across with so many tragedies and your role models around you as well and trying to cope.
mhm,
The being selfish as in terms of having alcohol part of your daily routine and seeing it that was selfish. That was really incredible. I never really seen it from that perspective, but I thank you so much for sharing. And you have shared so many pivotal moments that perhaps the first questions that I had, you answer it in many ways. But your role involves deep conversations, as you have said it, your lived experience in and out of hospital and addiction, and your being close to suicide from family members. It sort of helps you. And so, how do you balance the emotional weight of your experience and your work now and maintaining your own well-being now? And I'd imagine that you have your son still with you.
mhm. So he's 12 now.
Yeah.
I think it's, I don't know, it's easy for me to do now. So I'm 3.5 years sober. So I haven't touched a drink in 3.5 years. And I think what I've done is in that time, I've built a really good network of people around me, which is so important for my mental health. I have joined sports teams, and that's really important to me. Um, to have people that I can just have a laugh with once a week, get some exercise. So I play cricket as well. And so I think team sport's been really important for me, which is crazy because I haven't played sports since I was a teenager. And now I'm in my 40s and I'm back playing sport again, which is fantastic. I never would have thought I'd be doing that. Um, I think I'm lucky that I get to do what I love. So I get to wake up in the morning and go to a job that I love. So that again keeps me really well. Medication's a big part of it also. Staying connected to my family. Um, yeah, I think we all need at least one person in our life who is a bit of a cheerleader for us. I think if you can have that one person that you can turn to no matter what and just say, today's not a good day. I just need you to listen and I find when I'm out talking to people, all they want is for someone to listen to them. I don't need to tell them I understand. I don't need to tell them my story and say, well, this is what happened to me, so I get it. Maybe I don't get it. It doesn't matter. You've just got to be there for people and show up for people. And kindness is so important because everyone has a story, everyone has a struggle, and you don't know what's going on for a person on any given day. So I just think kindness just will make us so much happier.
Mm, uh,
Kindness and connection
yeah,
as well.
thank you. You mentioned, sorry, I interrupted your flow of what you were saying. I wanted to mention about the 8 minutes conversation that you gave us in your introduction.
Hmm.
And I think that is very thought-provoking, powerful, insightful, that how spend 8 minutes of our time and dedication and totally being present with someone can transform someone's life. I do remember a dear friend. I used to sail in this gentleman's boat in the early 2000s and in Melbourne. And I invited him for dinner. None of us knew about his mental health
Mhm.
state. I do remember when people left the dinner party, it was in my house, and he said something to me. He said, I can't stand this life anymore. And it didn't register. I then days later, we call him. He never answered the phone. Friend called me 2 days later, said, look, I have bad news about Patrick. He just ended his life. And I felt so guilty, Kate, for not being able to help him. And I couldn't
Yeah.
stop crying at the time. If I had offered him to stay in my house that night, he didn't kill himself that night. But when he mentioned, I can't stand this life anymore, then he drove back to his home, possibly inside his own world of desperation. And I felt so guilty forever for a long, long time. I had to seek counseling because I was not exposed to suicide at the time. I was
Yeah.
in my early 40s. And
And
so, I felt bad. And these 8 minutes, I think it is quite revealing.
well, I think with suicide, what's left behind is so heartbreaking. Like they say, one suicide affects about 115 people. I think it's more. And the ripple effects, I mean, me talking about it 30 years later, that's the effect it had on me. So what that person leaves behind is really difficult, and people feel guilty. Did they do enough? Did they not do enough? What I think we need to understand is when someone is at that point,
Mm.
they are so desperate,
Mhm.
and people are like they weren't thinking of us and they did this. They are. That's all they're thinking about. All they're thinking about is all these people around me, and I'm not enough, and I'm letting them down, and they're going to be better off without me. And once that decision is made, that decision is made. And so I don't think we need to carry around that guilt.
No, of course.
We just need to remember who they were and learn from it and be there for other people.
Mm. Well, yes, all true. And yeah, it is amazing. I'm really enjoying this conversation and I'm learning. I feel also while you are talking, this compassion within my heart for for myself and for other stories that I have heard of friends losing children to suicide. And I think I share with you that right now I have someone that his 13-year-old son has horrendous injuries from trying to commit suicide, and he was not successful. So now he has to deal with lifetime injuries. But I wanted to ask you, Kate, if okay with you, through your podcast and advocacy, you amplify the voices that are not heard. So
Mhm.
that has been what has been the most surprising lesson that you have learned from the stories that people shared with you, if you can share with us.
I think the best thing about it is just I love learning about things I had no idea about. So,
Hello.
um, one that stands out is I spoke to legendary Newcastle drag queen Glenda, and she's passed away now, but just learning about the culture of that scene in Newcastle and how important it is to these people. And that was amazing. And then listening to someone who's neurodivergent and how they navigate the world. I think it's just if if I can learn about something I've never really delved into and do that via a real face-to-face conversation, then it's not just for me though, it's for everyone listening. And um, yeah, I just think. being able to meet people that I would never have crossed paths with. But as I said before, everyone has a story, everyone has a struggle. We're all here because we got through something. So we're capable and we're strong. And for someone who may never get to be in a position where I get to share my story, I can share their story. Yeah.
It's beautiful, yes. Yeah, by sharing their story, you also, well, participating with your own story, that and you know, it is important. Everybody has a story. Like, I am here because I have a story, and I am having these remarkable conversations because I want as well your story to be highlighted, and how important, and how can, if someone can get an insight from this conversation, then we have created this amazing ripple effect of consciousness that is
Mm.
important for us. Of it, it is important certainly for me and my mission and my vision for what I want to create. I want to ask you a question because many women feel trapped in cycles of struggle, whether in addiction, mental health and challenges, career uncertainty, and perhaps you went through this through your years of very challenging time, and uh, and this can bring mental health challenges. I mentioned that I personally experience with grief and sadness, and a bit of postnatal depression. So
Mhm.
what would be your advice to those seeking to redefine themselves and find a new path forward, if you can
I
share?
think for me, it was like I just had to stop living in the shadows and I had to stop being ashamed, which took a while. I was ashamed of my drinking. I was ashamed of the role it played in my life. Um, and as I said before, we're all really capable and it takes work. I'm not going to lie. It You have to be willing to put in the work, but you have to come to that decision. And really, at the end of the day, only you can make that decision, just like to stop drinking. It didn't matter how many people told me I had to do it. The whole world could have knocked on my door and I would have said, go away. I
Mm.
had to make the decision. I had to wake up that morning and make that choice every day. So you have to make conscious decisions about where you want your life to go. I'm at university now. I've gone back to study. I couldn't handle it, so I dropped a unit. Big deal. It's going to take me longer, but at least I'm still moving forward. I might be crawling and it might be a really slow pace, but at least I'm moving forward. So just look at where you want to make change, write it down even, and consciously decide to take small steps towards that goal. And it can be a tiny goal. It can be, I've got to get out of bed. That could be your goal for the day, to get out of bed and go to the shop. I had days where I couldn't do that. You can just breathe through it, count, get your feet on the floor, get yourself up and get out of bed. That could be tick. This is what I've done today. But you know what? I survived. And it doesn't have to be a life-changing moment. You don't have to wait for an epiphany.
Mm.
It's anytime, anytime. Don't trip over what was behind you. Focus on what's in front of you.
And you mentioned something, thanks for sharing that. You mentioned about having a cheerleader in your life, someone that you can call. So are you also um, suggesting here that, you know, talking to our GP or talking to a
Mhm.
mental health practitioner or seeking the help of a coach? Yes, indeed. In my work, I have identified, I have the skills to help you, but in the end, you make the decision, the individual, the client makes the decision to redefine their life and have this enormous courage. As you said, it takes uh, a lot of work,
Mhm.
and congratulations for being a beacon of inspiration for many. So tell us about your thoughts of finding help and finding that cheerleader, that coach, that mentor, that GP, that psychologist. Tell us.
And it can change from time to time. Sometimes it's my mum, sometimes it's my partner, sometimes it's my son. When I was unwell, my GP played a big role in that. I think if you can find a good understanding GP, it makes such a difference because they're the ones that are going to connect you to other services. There are great community groups around Newcastle as well. So there's us, places like Talk to Me Bro, One Door Mental Health, like all these groups that do social clubs and things like that. If you're feeling nervous about social interaction as well, we also have a social group called the Lighthouse Club, which is AKA TLC. And that's where you just meet up with like-minded souls and have a coffee and a walk and yeah, so there are little pockets of people out there. I think you've just got to find the right fit. And that's why volunteering is such a good thing because you can try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. Um, but you can try different things and just connect with people in that sort of way. And I mean, psychologists and psychiatrists, fantastic if you can afford it. A lot of people can't afford to go and see a psychiatrist, which is really disheartening. Um, I mean, I've been in positions where I've had to cancel, but there are other supports out there. There's the suicide safe spaces and the safe haven as well in Newcastle and Charlestown. So there are ways you can intervene out there. Um, but yeah, I can leave my details on
Certainly,
this video if anyone wants to reach out and
definitely.
wants to learn about what's around Newcastle.
Indeed, because yeah, it's been a privilege to be in this community, meeting you last Friday, and then here we are a few days later, exchanging these insights. I'm very, publicly and intimate as well. So it is an amazing thing, very courageous of you to offer to share your experience, and yeah. I guess you share a little bit of in this next question that I wanted to ask you, and is our last question. So the impact that you hope to leave in through your work, the legacy that you hope to leave, whether it's personally or professionally. How can we support suicide prevention and mental health awareness in our own communities?
I think it's just about, I think in our own communities. For me, I would just like to live a life of trying to make someone else's day better. That's my biggest legacy, and showing my son that there is kindness in the world and there is ways to support people that are struggling. And I just want to be a good person at the end of the day. And I want to fight for people that don't have a voice or are too scared to speak up. Um, I think as a community, like I said before, we just need to be kind to each other because we don't know what each of us is going through. Check on your neighbors, check on your friends, check on your grandparents, check on your parents. Um,
It's true.
yeah, and try and try and connect socially in some way. I know it can be really scary. I know there's days when you don't feel like it. But like I said, those studies show that 8 minutes can reduce depression, anxiety, isolation, in 8 minutes a day. So if you can just reach out to someone, I don't want anyone to suffer alone. That's the scariest thing is to suffer alone,
Mm.
and people don't have to.
It's powerful. And I want to share this that perhaps I have never really shared, but only with intimate friends. After the pandemic, I experienced during the pandemic in Melbourne, we were one of the most locked down cities in the world, some traumatic events. One of those events was the suicide of a young man, son of a dear friend of mine that I call my brother. And I remember seeing this young man in their house a few days before he killed himself. And he came out and said Hi Maria, how you doing? And I hug him. He's a tall boy, just like Mitch. And I said, oh, hi, I'm here for a few days because I'm having problems at home with my partner and he wants to end the relationship. So I felt really so desperate at the time. I had nowhere to turn. We couldn't go even further than 5 kilometers at
Right.
the time, and we had curfew. And so anyway, I remember when I shared this information with him, he hugged me so tightly. And then later, a few days later, his stepmom rings me and said, so and so has killed himself. And his dad was devastated. But then I went back to the house in Melbourne where I was living at the time, and I remember saying this. My friend, her husband, this young man committed suicide. All the neighbors, the friends around, they brought food, flowers. They look after the other little kiddies. They had a community around them to support them.
Mhm.
Well, I was just battling with the breakup of a relationship. And after being so close to someone day and night during the pandemic, I felt so, when this person left, it was a huge void. It was just the emptiness, the loneliness,
Mm.
the silence, the everything. And I actually mentioned to a friend, I said, wow, when someone dies, people rally around you. But when you are suffering, depression or your partner leaves you,
Mm.
gives a damn shit about it.
Mhm.
I felt at times, Kate, and I could have died in that little unit at the back of this property where I used to live and created a beautiful garden. And I could have been dead for days and nobody would have known because no
Wow.
one reached out. So
Wow.
what
Yeah.
you have said, it has brought so many, you know, real life experiences that, through determination, through resilience, through touching base with a mental health professional, I found the answer, but not many people have that possibility. And certainly, I guess that at the time, Kate, I will also confess that my my comments were negative to other people. I say things, I can't stand this anymore. So perhaps they felt a bit intimidated by my comments. I don't think I am known or have been known for, being taken to an emergency department with an overdose or anything like that. But certainly it was a very fragile stage in my life that I had
Mhm.
never confessed really publicly. But
Mm.
I want to share it in terms
Yeah.
of honoring as well your amazing journey of determination and courage and that ability to face that shame
Mhm.
that you've confessed you had and your capability that you said enough is enough and you just have that one day and kept going, kept going, kept going. So, wow, amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story. I think it's important what you said about we wait for something bad to happen before people react. React before that. That's what, if we've got any chance of saving lives, we need to react before that point.
And then identifying that, don't wait for the words that you don't hear or whatever, or you just be kind constantly. Reach out to
Mhm.
people, reach out. Tell us, what are you studying that you're in a journey of, slow pace? Tell us, share.
I'm doing my master's in counseling, so I'll be able to help more people that way.
Awesome. How long you got to go? Tell us.
Well, it's going to take me about 5 years or so if I keep plodding along, but that doesn't matter. That's
No, you're a young woman. I'm in my 60s, and it's been a journey lately in the last 3, 4 years that I decided to redefine my story and do more of what I love. So
Mhm.
it's never too late. It took me 17 years to clarify this journey, and
Mhm.
I've been a migrant to Australia for 38 years this year. And I decided to live congruently with my values. So well
Mhm.
done, Kate. I think I
Yeah.
want to thank you so much for sharing this story. And we will write in the notes where can people find you, and I will share with you a little bit more of what we need. So when I create a thumbnail to share this episode in my YouTube channel as well as in LinkedIn. But it's been an honor to meet you and to share this insightful conversation. And for that, I want to thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria.
No worries at all.